Dr. Kim Tae-jin wiped the sweat from his forehead as he stared at the ancient data vault buried deep beneath the dead planet's surface. The air recycler in his suit hummed quietly, the only sound in the vast underground chamber that had been sealed for 50,000 years. "Another religious text?" asked Lee Hai-min, his research assistant, as she carefully extracted crystallized data cores from the wall. Her voice crackled through the comm system. "I don't think so," Tae-jin replied, running his scanner over the strange symbols carved into the metal walls. "These markings are different, more urgent." The Althari civilization had been dead for millennia, their homeworld now a frozen wasteland orbiting a dying star. But their final data vault told a story that made Tae-jin's skin crawl. As the translation software worked through the ancient language, words began to appear on his screen. "Warning to all who find this message," the text read. "We have watched the third world of the Yellow Star. We have seen what lives there. Never wake them. Never let them know we exist. Never rouse Earth." Hyman stopped working and looked at her tablet. "Earth? How did they know about Earth?" Tae-jin's hands shook as he accessed more files. The Althari had been monitoring radio signals from Earth for thousands of years before humans even built their first cities. They had watched and they had been afraid. "Captain Park," Tae-jin called into his comm. "We need you down here." Captain Park Dae-ho arrived 20 minutes later, his heavy boots echoing in the chamber. The former military officer took one look at the translated files and frowned. "This doesn't make sense," Park said. "The Althari were advanced. They had space travel, energy weapons, force fields. What could they possibly fear from primitive humans?" The answer came as they dug deeper into the data vault. The Althari had not feared human technology. They had feared human nature. File after file showed detailed observations of human behavior. Wars that lasted centuries. Genocides that wiped out entire peoples, but also acts of incredible cooperation and sacrifice. The Althari had studied humans like scientists studying dangerous animals. "Look at this," Heemin said, her voice quiet. "They documented every major war on Earth for the past 10,000 years. Every conflict, every battle, every peace treaty that was broken." Tae-jin read over her shoulder. The Althari records were incredibly detailed. They had watched humans fight with sticks and stones, then bronze and iron, then gunpowder and bullets. They had seen humans adapt, learn, and grow stronger with each conflict. But what terrified the Althari was not human violence. It was human unity. They were afraid of what would happen if humans stopped fighting each other. Tae-jin whispered. "Look at these calculations." The data showed complex mathematical models. The Althari had run countless simulations of human development. In every scenario where humans achieved space travel, the results were the same. Either humans would unite the galaxy under their control, or they would destroy everything that refused to join them. "This is insane," Park said. "They're talking about humans like we're some kind of plague." "Are we?" Hyman asked quietly. The question hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Tae-jin continued reading, his stomach growing sick with each new revelation. The Althari had identified something unique about humans. Unlike other intelligent species, humans had never evolved past their tribal instincts. Instead, they had weaponized them. Other species became peaceful as they grew smarter. Humans became better at war. The Althari had watched humans form bonds with complete strangers, fighting and dying for people they had never met, simply because they shared the same flag or belief. They had seen humans show incredible kindness to their own kind while treating outsiders as animals to be destroyed. "They were studying us like a virus," Tae-jin said, "trying to understand how we spread, how we adapt, how we survive." The final entries in the data vault were the most disturbing. As the Althari civilization began to decline, their leaders had made a choice. Rather than risk humanity discovering their existence, they had chosen extinction. "They killed themselves," Hyman breathed. "They poisoned their own atmosphere rather than chance contact with Earth." But the records showed they were not alone. The Althari had sent messages to other civilizations, warning them about the sleeping giant in the Sol system. They had shared their research, their fears, their final recommendation. "Never rouse Earth." "Sir," Park said, his voice tight with tension. "We need to report this to the consortium immediately." Tae-jin nodded, but his mind was racing. If the Althari were right, if humans really were as dangerous as their record suggested, then what did that mean for the colonies spreading across human space? What did it mean for the alien species that humanity had already encountered? "There's more here," Hyman said, accessing another data core. Star charts, coordinates, transmission records. They weren't just watching Earth. They were part of some kind of network. The star charts showed locations across the galaxy, each marked with a symbol that the translation software identified as Watcher Post. The Althari had been part of a galaxy-wide monitoring system, all focused on keeping track of humanity's development. How many others knew about us? Taejin wondered aloud. The transmission records provided a partial answer. The Althari had been in contact with dozens of other civilizations, all sharing the same obsession with Earth, all sharing the same fear. As they prepared to leave the data vault, Taejin took one last look at the ancient warnings carved into the walls. The Althari had been so terrified of humanity that they had chosen death over discovery. They had seen something in human nature that convinced them that contact would mean the end of everything they held dear. What if they were right? Heman asked as they climbed back toward the surface. What if humans really are that dangerous? Taejin didn't answer, but the question followed him all the way back to their research station. As he looked out at the stars from his quarters that night, he wondered how many other civilizations were out there, watching, waiting, and preparing for the day that humanity might find them. The Althari were dead, but their warning remained. Never rouse Earth, but it was too late for that. Earth was already awake, and its children were spreading across the galaxy like wildfire. The question now was what they would do when they learned the truth about how the galaxy really saw them. 3 weeks after returning from the Althari homeworld, Taejin could not sleep. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw those warnings carved into ancient walls. Never rouse Earth. The words echoed in his mind like a curse. You look terrible, Hyman said as she entered his lab with 2 cups of coffee. When was the last time you slept? Sleep is overrated, Taejin replied, not looking up from his computer screen. He had been reviewing archived data from archaeological expeditions across the galaxy, searching for any mention of Earth or humanity in other dead civilizations. What he found made his blood run cold. Look at this, he said, pointing to a file on his screen. The Vorthak Empire extinct for 75,000 years. Their final monuments contain star charts pointing toward Sol system, with warnings written in 17 different languages. Hyman leaned closer to read the translation. Beware the third world. Death walks among its children. Do not wake the sleepers. It's the same message, Taejin said. Different words, same meaning. They knew about Earth. The Vorthak had been even more advanced than the Althari. They had controlled dozens of star systems and possessed technology that current human science could barely understand. Yet they too had been terrified of a primitive world orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. Here's another one, Taejin continued, opening a new file. The Nereid Collective, an aquatic species that died out 30,000 years ago. They hid biocrystalline memory cores in the deepest ocean trenches of their homeworld. The cores contained detailed studies of human naval warfare. The Nereid records were different but equally disturbing. As an aquatic species, they had been particularly interested in human behavior on and around water. They had documented every major sea battle in human history, studying human tactics with the intensity of prey animals watching predators. They were afraid we would find them, Hyman realized. All of them were afraid we would eventually reach their worlds. A knock on the lab door interrupted their discussion. Dr. Choi Min-jun, the director of the Galactic Archaeological Consortium, entered with a grim expression. I've been reading your preliminary reports, Choi said. The council is concerned. If what you've found is true, it changes everything we thought we knew about galactic history. It's true, Taejin said firmly. I've found similar warnings from 6 different extinct civilizations. All of them knew about Earth. All of them were watching us. Choi sat down heavily in a chair. I'm authorizing expanded research. Dr. Yoon Soo-bin from the Weapons Analysis Division will join your team. If these civilizations were preparing for conflict with humanity, we need to understand what they were planning. Dr. Yoon Soo-bin arrived the next day. A quiet woman with sharp eyes and a reputation for understanding alien technology, better than most aliens did. She reviewed the data with clinical detachment before delivering her analysis. These civilizations weren't just afraid, she said. They were actively preparing for war with humanity. Look at this. She pulled up technical specifications from the Vorthak archives. The images showed massive orbital platforms designed to sterilize entire worlds from space. planet-killer weapons that could turn a living world into molten rock in minutes. The interesting thing is that these weapons were never used, Subin continued. Not once. The Vorthak built them specifically for use against Earth-like worlds with Earth-like inhabitants. They ran countless simulations of fighting human-style tactics, but they never fired them, Hyman observed. No, because they knew it wouldn't work. Look at their simulation results. The Vorthak computers had run millions of battle scenarios. In every case where they attacked Earth directly, humanity eventually won, not through superior technology, but through sheer stubborn refusal to surrender. They calculated that even if they destroyed 90% of human civilization, the survivors would eventually rebuild and come looking for revenge, Subin explained. Humans were the only species they studied that became more dangerous when threatened. The team spent days reviewing similar data from other extinct civilizations. The pattern was always the same. Watch Earth, study humanity. Prepare defenses. Choose extinction over contact. Why? Taejin asked during one late-night research session. What made them so afraid? The answer came from an unexpected source. Deep in the Nereid archives, they found psychological profiles of human behavior that were more detailed than anything human scientists had produced. The aquatic aliens had studied humanity with the dedication of doctoral students writing their final thesis. They identified something they called the human paradox. Hyman read from the translated files. Humans are simultaneously the most cooperative and most destructive species they had ever observed. The Nereid had watched humans form massive civilizations spanning continents, cooperating on projects that lasted generations. They had seen humans sacrifice their lives for complete strangers, share resources during disasters, and work together to solve problems that no individual could handle alone. But they had also seen humans turn that same cooperative instinct into a weapon. Human armies fought with a coordination that other species found terrifying. Human societies could mobilize entire populations for war with a speed and efficiency that made the Nereid tremble. Look at this analysis, Subin said, pointing to a chart. They compared human warfare to other species. Most intelligent beings fight to minimize losses. Humans fight to achieve objectives regardless of cost. The files contained detailed studies of human conflicts throughout history. The Nereid had been particularly fascinated by siege warfare, where humans would sometimes fight for years over a single city, accepting massive casualties rather than retreat. They called it victory or extinction thinking, Taejin read. Humans would rather die than lose. But the most disturbing discovery came when they found the Nereid's final conclusion. After thousands of years of studying humanity, the aquatic aliens had reached a simple verdict. Humans were not evil, but they were unstoppable. They wrote that humans were like a force of nature, Heman said quietly. Beautiful and terrible, creative and destructive, capable of incredible art and unthinkable violence. They said contact with humanity would be like trying to negotiate with a hurricane. As the weeks passed, more evidence emerged. The crystalline Zol had encoded warnings about Earth into the very structure of their art. The gas giant dwelling Aryans had programmed their atmospheric computers to monitor radio signals from Sol system. The plant-like Verdani had grown their warnings into the genetic code of their forests, all dead, all extinct, all terrified of the same small blue world. We're not the first humans to find these warnings, Subin realized one day as she reviewed timestamps on the archaeological data. Some of these sites were visited by human expeditions years ago. The findings were classified. The government knows, Taejin said. The military knows, Choi corrected grimly. And they're not telling anyone else. That night, as Taejin stared out at the stars from his quarters, he wondered what humanity's leaders were planning to do with this information. Would they see it as validation of human superiority? As justification for expansion and conquest? Or would they understand, as he was beginning to understand, that being feared by every intelligent species in the galaxy was not something to celebrate? The dead civilizations had left their warnings for a reason. They had seen something in humanity that convinced them that contact would mean the end of everything they valued. The question that kept Taejin awake was simple and terrifying. What if they were right? The coordinates were hidden in a pattern that took Dr. Songnari 3 days to decode. The Althari, Vorthak, and Nereid had all included the same mathematical sequence in their final records, disguised as stellar navigation data. When Nari finally cracked the code, the result made everyone on the research team stare in silence. "It's pointing to the Galactic Center," she announced. "But not just any location. These coordinates mark something that shouldn't exist." The Nexus was impossibly old. As their research ship approached the massive structure, Taejin felt like an ant crawling toward a mountain. The space station was larger than most moons, its dark metal surface covered in symbols from hundreds of different civilizations. "I'm reading power signatures," Captain Park reported from the bridge. "Whatever this thing is, it's still active after millions of years." "How is that possible?" Hyman asked, staring at the sensor readings. "Maybe we're about to find out," Taejin replied. The station's docking bay opened automatically as they approached, as if it had been expecting them. Emergency lights flickered on along the corridors, leading them deeper into the structure like breadcrumbs in an ancient story. "The atmosphere is breathable," Subin reported as they entered the main archive chamber. "Temperature and pressure are perfect for humans. Almost like it was designed for us." The archive chamber was vast beyond imagination. Crystalline storage units stretched away in all directions, each one glowing with stored data. At the center of the room stood a holographic display that activated as soon as they entered. "Welcome, children of Earth," the hologram said in perfect Korean. The figure that appeared was tall and thin, with large eyes and skin that seemed to shift between colors. "We are the Watchers. We have been waiting for you." "Impossible," Nari whispered. "This station is millions of years old. How can it speak our language?" "We have been monitoring your species since you first looked up at the stars," the hologram continued. "We know your languages, your cultures, your dreams and nightmares. We know what you are." The hologram gestured and images began to appear around them. Earth as it was millions of years ago. The first humans walking upright across African plains. The development of language, tools, agriculture, civilization. "You are not the first intelligent species to evolve in this galaxy," the Watcher said. "You are not even the 100th. But you are unique." "In what way?" Taejin asked. "You never stopped being predators." The images changed, showing other species from across the galaxy. Peaceful beings who had evolved past violence. Civilizations that had achieved harmony with their environments and each other. Cultures based on cooperation rather than competition. "Every other intelligent species follows the same pattern," the Watcher explained. "They develop technology, overcome their violent instincts, and create peaceful societies. They become wise. But not humans," Heemin said quietly. "Humans weaponize their intelligence," the hologram confirmed. "You made war into an art form. You turned cooperation into a tool for destruction. You created the most efficient killing machines in the galaxy. And then you aimed them at anyone who disagreed with you." Nari accessed one of the storage units, downloading files that contained detailed analyses of human psychology. The Watchers had studied humanity with scientific precision, mapping every aspect of human behavior. "Look at this," she said, reading from her tablet. "They identified what they call the human paradox. Humans are capable of incredible empathy and terrible cruelty, often at the same time." The files contained examples that made Taejin's stomach turn. Human soldiers who would risk their lives to save wounded enemies, then return to killing the next day. Doctors who healed the sick while their governments poisoned water supplies. Artists who created beauty while their neighbors committed genocide. "Other species see contradictions," the Watcher said. "We see consistency. Humans apply the same intensity to love and hate, creation and destruction, healing and killing." "Why did you keep watching us?" Subin asked. "If we're so dangerous, why not destroy us when we were primitive?" The hologram paused, and for the first time it seemed almost sad. "Because we made a mistake with the first species like you. We destroyed them before they could prove us wrong. The guilt of that genocide has haunted us for 10 million years." The images changed again, showing a species that looked remarkably human, bipedal, intelligent, aggressive. They had been developing technology when the Watchers decided they were too dangerous to survive. "The Corvani," the Watcher said. "We convinced the other galactic civilizations to destroy them before they could develop space travel. We told ourselves it was necessary for galactic peace." "Were they really like us?" Taejin asked. "We will never know. We killed them before they had a chance to change, to grow, to become something better than their instincts. The decision has haunted us ever since." Nari downloaded more files, her hands shaking as she read the contents. The Watchers had been observing intelligent species for millions of years, guiding their development, helping them overcome their violent tendencies. They had been like gardeners cultivating peace across the galaxy. But you couldn't bring yourselves to destroy us, He-Man realized. We decided to wait and watch, to see if humanity would prove different from the Corvani, to see if you could evolve past your violent nature without our interference. And what did you conclude? Park asked. The Watcher's image flickered, and when it stabilized, it looked directly at Tae-Jin. That humans are exactly what we feared, and exactly what we hoped. The contradiction made no sense until the hologram explained. Humans were indeed the most dangerous species the Watchers had ever observed, but they were also the most adaptable. Other species evolved slowly over millions of years. Humans could change within a single generation. We watched you fight 2 world wars that should have destroyed your civilization, the Watcher said. Then we watched you choose cooperation instead. We saw you create international laws, global organizations, shared goals that transcended national boundaries. But you also watched us build nuclear weapons, Subin pointed out. Yes, weapons capable of destroying your world. And then you chose not to use them. For 70 years you have possessed the power to end your species, and you have chosen restraint. The files Nari was downloading painted a complex picture of humanity. The Watchers had documented every human war, but also every peace treaty. Every genocide, but also every rescue mission. Every act of cruelty, but also every sacrifice for strangers. We reached a conclusion, the Watcher said. Humans are not evil, but you are powerful beyond anything this galaxy has ever seen. The question is not whether you will spread across the stars. The question is what you will do when you get there. What happened to all the other civilizations? Tae-Jin asked. The ones that left warnings about us. Are they really extinct? The hologram smiled, and for the first time it looked genuinely pleased. They are not dead. They are hiding. The revelation hit the research team like a physical blow. All those extinct civilizations, all those dire warnings, all those elaborate extinction scenarios, they had been an act. A galaxy-wide deception designed to keep humanity from knowing they were being watched. They're afraid of us, He-Man said. Terrified, the Watcher confirmed, but also curious. They want to see what you will become. Will you be conquerors or liberators? Destroyers or protectors? The galaxy holds its breath, waiting to find out. Nari finished downloading the last of the files and looked up at the hologram. What happens now? Now you return to Earth with this knowledge. You tell your leaders what you have learned. And then humanity makes a choice. What kind of choice? Park asked. Whether to prove the galaxy's fears justified, or to become something greater than anyone ever imagined possible. As they prepared to leave the Nexus, Tae-Jin took one last look at the ancient archive. Millions of years of galactic history surrounded them, all leading to this moment. Humanity stood at a crossroads with the power to unite the galaxy or destroy it. The question was which path they would choose. One more thing, the Watcher said as they reached the docking bay. The other civilizations are not the only ones watching you now. The news of your discovery here will spread quickly. Some species will want to make contact. Others will want to ensure you never leave your solar system. Is that a threat? Park asked. It is a warning. The galaxy is about to learn that humanity is no longer contained to Earth. What happens next will determine the fate of every living being in this part of the universe. As their ship pulled away from the Nexus, Tae-Jin watched the ancient station disappear into the darkness. Behind them lay the accumulated wisdom of millions of years. Ahead lay an uncertain future where humanity would finally learn its true place in the galaxy. The question was whether they would be ready for the answer. The leak came from within the consortium itself. 3 days after returning from the Nexus, classified footage of the Watcher hologram appeared on news networks across human space. Within hours, the revelation that humanity had been watched and feared by an entire galaxy sparked riots on 12 different worlds. This was supposed to remain classified, Director Choi said angrily as he paced around the emergency meeting room. Now we have colonial governments demanding explanations and military leaders talking about preemptive strikes. Tae-Jin watched the news feeds with growing horror. On Mars, crowds gathered outside government buildings demanding to know what other secrets were being hidden from them. On Europa Station, colonial militia groups called for immediate military mobilization. On distant Kepler 442, the same world where they had found the first Althari warnings, human settlers were forming armed patrols. They're scared, Hyman observed. People don't like learning they've been watched without their knowledge. They should be scared, Admiral Kang Junho said as he entered the room. The military leader's presence made everyone tense. Kang was known for his aggressive policies and his belief that humanity's expansion should not be limited by alien concerns. Admiral, Choi said carefully, I wasn't expecting military involvement at this stage. The moment you discovered evidence of hostile alien surveillance, this became a security matter, Kang replied coldly. We need to assume that these hidden civilizations are preparing to attack human colonies. The Watchers weren't hostile, Nari protested. They were trying to help us understand. They've been spying on us for thousands of years, Kang shot back. They influenced other species to fear us, to prepare weapons against us. That sounds like hostile action to me. The argument was interrupted by an emergency alert from the space monitoring station. Dr. Lim Jae-won, a quantum physicist who had been analyzing the Watcher technology, appeared on the main screen looking pale and shaken. We have a problem, Lim said. The ancient monitoring stations we found in the outer system aren't just watching us anymore. They're active. The image changed to show long-range sensor data. Across human space, automated systems that had been dormant for millennia were coming online. Orbital platforms around dead worlds were powering up. Deep space relays were broadcasting signals toward unknown destinations. It's like they're waking up, Lim continued, as if our discovery of the Nexus triggered some kind of activation sequence. Or a warning system, Subin added grimly. The hidden civilizations know we've learned the truth. Admiral Kang smiled, and the expression made Taejin's blood run cold. Perfect. Let them reveal themselves. It'll make targeting them much easier. You can't be serious about attacking them, Taejin said. These are civilizations that chose to hide rather than fight. They're not our enemies. They studied us like laboratory animals, Kang replied. They prepared weapons specifically designed to kill humans. They convinced entire species to go into hiding rather than make peaceful contact. How is that not hostile? The debate was becoming heated when Lim's voice cut through the argument. There's something else. The quantum signatures from these awakening systems, they're not entirely in our dimension. What does that mean? Choi asked. I think the hidden civilizations didn't just hide in space. They hid in alternate realities, pocket dimensions, folded space-time. They've been existing partially outside our normal universe. The implications hit everyone simultaneously. If the hidden civilizations had dimensional technology, they could attack from anywhere at any time without warning. Human defenses would be useless against enemies who could exist outside the normal laws of physics. How many are there? Kang demanded. Unknown, Lim replied. But the quantum disturbances suggest dozens of civilizations, possibly hundreds. They've been coordinating across multiple dimensions for millennia. Over the following days, the situation deteriorated rapidly. Reports came in from across human space of strange phenomena. On Titan, mining equipment detected massive structures materializing and disappearing in the planet's core. Near Proxima Centauri, survey ships reported encountering vessels that appeared solid on sensors but were invisible to the naked eye. The hidden civilizations were testing their abilities, probing human responses, preparing for something big. They're deciding whether to reveal themselves or eliminate us, Subin concluded after analyzing the data. Every probe, every test, every manifestation is gathering intelligence about human capabilities. Taejin found himself caught between two impossible positions. The military, led by Admiral Kang, wanted to prepare for war against enemies they couldn't see or understand. The scientific community, represented by Director Choi, wanted to attempt peaceful contact with beings who had spent millennia in hiding, specifically to avoid humanity. We need to make a choice, Nari said during one of their planning sessions. Do we approach this as scientists seeking knowledge or as humans defending our territory? Why can't it be both? Hyman asked. The answer came from an unexpected source. Deep space monitoring stations detected a massive energy signature approaching the solar system. Whatever was coming was larger than anything humans had ever built, moving at speeds that should have been impossible. It's a ship, the sensor operator reported, or maybe a small moon. It's slowing down as it approaches the outer planets. Are there any attempts at communication? Choi asked. Nothing on standard frequencies, but we're detecting quantum fluctuations consistent with the dimensional technology we observed at the other sites. Admiral Kang immediately ordered the activation of Earth's orbital defense platforms. Ancient weapon systems, some dating back to the early days of human space travel, powered up for the first time in decades. Military ships across the solar system changed course to converge on the approaching vessel. "Admiral, wait," Tae-Jin pleaded. "This could be a first contact situation. If we attack first, we justify every fear they've ever had about humanity. If we don't attack first, we might not get a second chance," Kang replied. The debate became academic when the approaching vessel suddenly stopped. Long-range sensors showed it taking position near Jupiter, well outside the range of human weapons. Then it did something that stunned everyone watching. It began broadcasting human television signals. "Those are programs from 50 years ago," the communications officer reported. "Classic movies, news broadcasts, educational content. They're sending our own history back to us." "It's a message," Nari realized. "They're showing us that they've been watching, that they know who we are, or they're mocking us," Kang said darkly. The broadcast continued for hours, showing humanity's greatest achievements and worst failures, wars and peace treaties, art and destruction, love and hate. It was like watching a documentary about human civilization, compiled by alien observers who had recorded everything. Then the broadcast changed. New images appeared showing civilizations Tae-Jin recognized from the archives. The Althari, the Vorthak, the Nereid, dozens of others, all alive, all thriving, all hidden in dimensions parallel to normal space. "They're revealing themselves," Heman whispered. The final image was the most stunning of all. It showed Earth as seen from space, but with a difference. Surrounding the planet were the ghostly outlines of massive structures, space stations, orbital habitats, monitoring platforms. All invisible to human sensors, all existing in alternate dimensions, all watching. "They've been here all along," Lim said, his voice filled with awe and terror, "right next to us watching everything we do." The broadcast ended with a simple message in dozens of languages, including several human ones. "We are ready to meet." "The question is, are you ready to meet us?" Admiral Kang's response was immediate. "Power up all weapon systems. Prepare for possible invasion." But Tae-Jin was thinking about something else. The hidden civilizations had revealed themselves, showing that they possessed technology beyond human understanding. They could have attacked at any time over the past 1,000 years. They could have eliminated humanity while it was still primitive. Instead, they had waited. They had watched. They had hoped. "They want to meet us," he said quietly. "After all these millennia of fear and hiding, they're willing to take the risk. The question is," Nari added, "what kind of humans will they meet?" As reports came in from across human space of similar revelations occurring near every major colony, Tae-Jin realized that humanity stood at the most important crossroads in its history. The choices made in the next few days would determine not just the future of human civilization, but the fate of every intelligent species in the galaxy. The sleeping giant had been awakened. Now everyone would discover what kind of creature it truly was. The first face-to-face meeting between humanity and the hidden civilizations took place on a neutral station that materialized in the asteroid belt. The structure appeared overnight, a crystalline marvel that existed simultaneously in multiple dimensions, visible to human eyes but untouchable by human hands. "It's beautiful," Hyamin whispered as their shuttle approached the station. The building seemed to shift and change as they watched, its walls flowing like liquid crystal while maintaining perfect structural integrity. "It's also a demonstration of power," Admiral Kang observed grimly from his seat across the shuttle. "They're showing us technology we can't even understand, let alone replicate." Tae-Jin remained silent, focused on the momentous nature of what they were about to do. As the leader of the team that had discovered the truth about galactic history, he had been chosen to represent humanity in these initial discussions. The weight of that responsibility felt heavier than gravity itself. The docking bay accepted their shuttle without any visible mechanism. One moment they were in space, the next they were inside a chamber filled with breathable atmosphere and comfortable lighting. No airlocks, no pressure changes, no transition at all. "Welcome to the Confluence Station," a familiar voice said. The Watcher hologram appeared beside them, but this time it was accompanied by dozens of other figures. Tall, thin beings that Tae-Jin recognized as Althari, aquatic creatures in environmental suits that had to be Nereid, others that defied easy description. "Representatives of 47 civilizations have gathered here," the Watcher continued. "All of them have been watching your species. All of them have been afraid." "And now?" Nari asked. "Now we are curious. The main conference chamber was vast enough to hold beings of every conceivable shape and size. Humans sat at one table, while around them gathered representatives of civilizations that spanned millions of years of galactic history. The diversity was overwhelming. Crystalline entities that communicated through light patterns, gas cloud beings that existed as organized electromagnetic fields, plant-like creatures that grew and changed as they thought. The Althari representative spoke first. Its voice was melodic, almost musical, translated by technology that turned alien thoughts into human language. "We have watched your species longer than any other," it said. "We have seen you at your worst and at your best. We have calculated every possible outcome of contact between our peoples." "And what did you conclude?" Admiral Kang asked, his tone challenging. "That you are exactly what we feared you would be, and exactly what we hoped you could become." The paradox that had defined humanity throughout galactic history was laid out in stark detail. The assembled civilizations had studied human behavior with scientific precision. They knew about human capacity for violence, but they also understood human potential for growth. "You wage war with an intensity that terrifies us," the Nereid representative said, its aquatic form rippling within its environmental suit. "But you also make peace with the same intensity. You can hate and love with equal passion." A crystalline being that identified itself as Zol added its perspective. "Other species evolve slowly over millions of years. Humans can change their entire civilization within a few generations. This adaptability makes you unpredictable." "Dangerous," Admiral Kang said. "Hopeful," the Watcher corrected. What followed was the most important negotiation in human history. The hidden civilizations presented their terms for emerging from their dimensional hiding places and making contact with humanity. The conditions were simple in concept but revolutionary in practice. They would share their advanced technologies, faster-than-light communication, dimensional engineering, medical treatments that could extend human life indefinitely, energy sources that would eliminate scarcity forever. In exchange, humanity would accept galactic oversight of its expansion and development. "You want us to submit to alien rule?" Kang said angrily. "We want you to prove that you can grow beyond your violent instincts," the Althari replied. "Other species did so naturally. Humans must choose to do so consciously." The debate that followed was intense. Human representatives argued among themselves while the alien observers watched with the patience of beings who had waited millennia for this moment. Some humans, led by Admiral Kang, saw the offer as an attempt to limit human potential and keep humanity subordinate to alien interests. Others, including Taijin, recognized it as an unprecedented opportunity for human civilization to evolve beyond its current limitations. "What guarantee do we have that you won't simply eliminate us if we refuse?" Hyman asked. "The same guarantee you have always had," the Watcher replied. "None. We could have destroyed your species at any point in the past 1,000 years. We chose not to because we hoped you would prove us wrong about the inevitability of violent expansion." "And if we accept your terms, what then?" Taijin inquired. "Then we begin the most ambitious experiment in galactic history. We attempt to integrate a species that has never evolved past its predator instincts into a peaceful galactic community." The negotiations continued for days. Earth's Global Council participated via quantum communication, debating every detail of the proposed agreement. Colonial governments across human space held emergency sessions. Military leaders planned for every possible outcome. In the end, humanity chose a path that surprised everyone, including themselves. They accepted the alien offer, but with modifications that reflected uniquely human thinking. Rather than immediate submission to galactic oversight, humanity proposed a gradual integration process. They would accept advanced technologies and guidance, but retain autonomy over their internal affairs. They would participate in galactic civilization as partners, not subjects. "You're asking us to trust you," the Althari representative observed. "Yes," Taijin replied, "just as you're asking us to trust you." Admiral Kang was furious with the decision, but he was overruled by civilian authorities who recognized the opportunity being offered. "This is a mistake," he warned. "We're giving up our independence to beings who have been spying on us for millennia." "We're choosing cooperation over conquest," Taijin replied. "We're proving that humans can evolve." The agreement that was finally signed was unlike anything in galactic history. For the first time, A species with humanity's violent tendencies was being given the chance to join galactic civilization while retaining its essential nature. The hidden civilizations would slowly emerge from their dimensional hiding places, sharing knowledge and technology while monitoring human expansion. This is an experiment, the Watcher admitted as the ceremony concluded. We do not know if it will succeed. Human nature may prove incompatible with galactic peace. Then we'll prove you wrong, Nari said firmly. We hope you will. The alternative is too terrible to consider. As the various alien representatives began to fade back to their dimensional hiding places, Tae-Jin realized that humanity's greatest test was just beginning. They had been given advanced technology and the opportunity to expand across the galaxy. The question now was whether they would use these gifts to become the conquerors that every alien species feared, or something entirely new. The first test came sooner than expected. Long-range sensors detected signs of an aggressive species in a nearby star system, beings who had never learned to control their violent impulses and were expanding through conquest and genocide. The hidden civilizations had been monitoring them with growing concern. They are what you could become, the Althari representative warned during an emergency communication. Unrestrained predators spreading across the galaxy like a plague. What do you want us to do about it? Admiral Kang asked. Stop them. The irony was not lost on anyone. Humanity's first test as members of galactic civilization was to use their violent nature for protective rather than aggressive purposes. They would have to become the galaxy's guardians, using their predatory instincts to hunt down other predators. It's perfect, Tae-Jin realized. They're giving us a way to channel our aggressive nature constructively. The mission that followed proved that the galactic civilizations had understood humanity better than humans understood themselves. Human forces, equipped with advanced alien technology, systematically dismantled the aggressive species' military capabilities, while offering their populations the same choice that had been given to Earth. Evolve or face isolation. The aggressive aliens chose evolution. 6 months after first contact with the hidden civilizations, Tae-Jin stood in his new office aboard the first human galactic cultural exchange station. Through the windows he could see ships from dozens of species docking and departing, carrying diplomats, scientists, artists, and philosophers eager to learn from each other. Any regrets? Heyman asked as she joined him at the window. About what? About discovering the truth. About changing everything. Tae-Jin considered the question seriously. Humanity was no longer alone in the galaxy. They were part of something larger, older and more complex than they had ever imagined. But they were still human. No regrets, he said finally. We're still who we've always been. We're just becoming something more. Outside the window, a human patrol ship passed by an Althari research vessel, their crews working together to investigate a new star system. The sight would have been impossible just months earlier. Now it was becoming routine.